Hi everyone, how are you all doing? Welcome back to the channel. For those who don't know me, my name is Bruno Villas, and today I'm going to tell you about a Brazilian case. Well, folks, this case is very similar to the case of Miss Ukraine. Even if you haven't watched it yet, I will leave the link pinned in the comments, and after this video, you can go watch it there. If you're not subscribed, subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss the notifications. That way, every time I post a new video, YouTube will notify you, and you can rush here to watch with me. Now, without further ado, let's get to today's case. Eloisa Fontes was born in Piranhas, a town located in the interior of the state of Alagoas in the north of Brazil. Coming from a humble background, Eloisa's dream was to be able to provide a better life for her family. From a very young age, she already showed the desire and poise to be a photographic and runway model. At 17, Eloisa managed to secure her first advertising contract. Also at 17, she won a beauty contest, and the universe seemed to be conspiring for Eloisa to succeed in her career. And it really was. As many doors were opening for Eloisa, she decided to move to Sao Paulo to continue her career. In fact, Eloisa's parents had to emancipate her so that she could live alone in another city and also sign the possible new contracts she might secure, in addition to managing her own financial life, of course. Upon arriving in Sao Paulo, work was the one thing Eloisa did not lack. She secured jobs throughout Europe and also America. So young and already standing out in the fashion industry, Eloisa managed to secure a contract with an international agency called Maryland, which had its headquarters in New York. From there, Eloisa graced the covers of various magazines, renowned ones such as Elle, Glamour, Grazia, among others. In addition to, of course, doing campaigns for giant brands like Armani, Dolce & Gabbana, Valentino, among others, she truly had a promising future laid out for her. The fashion world was already talking about Eloisa as the next Adriana Lima or Gisele Bündchen. Eloisa's schedule was always very full. Jobs across Europe and the United States were what was never lacking, and she always shared her routine with her fans through her Instagram and social media. In 2012, Eloisa met the Russian model Andrei Birlanum. They quickly started a relationship, and now Eloisa's life was truly complete. A promising career, a super caring boyfriend, and to complete this package, all that was missing was a baby, right? And that's when Eloisa gave birth to a beautiful girl named Azura. Since Eloisa and Andre worked for the same agency and were equally very admired in their work, the whole family was even invited to do some projects together. And that's how Azura appeared in the media early on, in a campaign for Dolce & Gabbana in 2015, and all of Eloisa's fan club continued to watch The Perfect Life. She had through her posts and stories on Instagram. But we already know, right? Not everything that glitters is gold, isn't it? We always hear that this fashion world enslaves and drains people, and when they are no longer useful, they are simply discarded. There is a great psychological pressure, the perfect body, the perfect face, the perfect skin, and if you no longer fit in, you're simply out. Many people can't withstand all this pressure, and they end up giving up even before reaching the level that Luis achieved. But when you reach as high as Eloisa did, it's hard to quit. And although Eloisa was going through all this pressure and all this harassment from the industry, she remained steadfast in her work. Aloysia and Andre's marriage ended, but she continued living in New York. Because of her work, the couple's daughter stayed with Andre because he had more available time. But Aloysia, whenever she could, spent time with her daughter and always communicated with her family who were in Brazil. Whenever she had time, she was talking to them through Skype or FaceTime. However, in 2019, everyone noticed that the Louisa was getting in touch with her family less frequently, and she no longer visited her daughter as often. At first, everyone thought she must be overwhelmed with work and very tired. But Eloisa began to distance herself so much from her family that it reached a point where they no longer had any news of her. She wouldn't answer calls, wouldn't respond the messages, and no one knew where she was. A colleague from the modeling agency where Eloisa worked reported that she told him she needed to renew her passport at the Brazilian consulate. He said she was agitated and acting strangely, and he was the last person to see Heloisa. She simply disappeared. Her agent made a statement saying that she was a responsible woman and that she must be going through personal problems and hoped that they would find her as soon as possible. Heloisa was missing for 5 days, and her family was already desperate. When they finally received news about the model, she was found in a city called White Plains. This city is near New York, about 30 minutes by train from where she had been. Last seen, Heloisa was visibly dazed, with few clothes, and appeared confused, and signs that she had been living on the street, literally as a homeless person. She was taken to a hospital, where she quickly recovered and returned to her apartment and her work. But what bothered her family in Brazil was that although they had received news about Heloisa, she herself had not. She did not contact them at any time. She didn't call, she didn't phone. They found out from others that she had been found, but she didn't give any news. Well, as I said before, in the fashion world, it's like this: they drain you while they can, and when you're no longer good enough, they discard you. And that's exactly what happened with Heloisa. Her image became somewhat tarnished in the industry after she was found in a homeless situation, and from there, many doors closed for the model. She no longer secured contracts like before, and at a certain point between the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020, Heloisa left the United States heading to Rio de Janeiro. We don't have a very exact date because up until that moment, she still wasn't communicating with her family nor with her ex husband, who had custody of their daughter, so no one knew that she had left New York. The family could hardly imagine that she was so close. As soon as she arrived in Rio, Heloisa was sharing an apartment with a friend in Copacabana. This friend reported that she was doing well and living a normal life, but she continued without contact with her relatives and her daughter. Now in Rio, Heloisa met a guy who lived in Barada Tijuca, with whom she quickly started a relationship and moved into the guy's apartment. The relationship didn't last more than 4 months. According to Heloisa's friend, during this period she was very irritated. It was at this time, in fact, that the lockdowns began, and everything was irritating Heloisa a lot. In fact, this might have been one of the causes of the end of the relationship. After leaving the guy's apartment, whose identity was not revealed, Heloisa disappeared once again. Her family no longer had news of her, and now neither did her friend knew where she was anymore. The friend I'm talking about, folks, is the friend she shared the apartment with, okay? Well, but a few days passed, and Heloisa began to be seen, living on the streets this time in some communities. From Rio de Janeiro, she was seen in Cidade de Deus and then in the Jacarezinho community. She was always seen with little clothing and making gestures as if she were in a photo shoot or fashion show. She told people that she was an international model, but of course, people didn't believe her. Out of nowhere, she would start speaking English to people and no one understood anything. They offered her food, but she wouldn't accept it. She started collecting cans, and at a certain point, she was even threatened with death. In August 2020, she ended up being admitted to the Lorenzo Jorge Hospital in Barra, Tatijuca, and then she was transferred to the Jurandir Manfredini Hospital in Curicica. Francisco, folks, whom I haven't introduced to you yet, but he is Heloisa's friend, the one who shared the apartment with her in Copa right after she returned from the United States, along with her ex-boyfriend, the one from Barada Tijuca. They got in touch with Eloisa's family, and that's when her family found out that she was in Brazil. In September, Eloisa's mother went to Rio de Janeiro, and it was the first time she spoke with her mother after almost a year without contact. Eloisa's mother convinced her to go to Minas Gerais to stay at a sister's house. In fact, she even celebrated her 27th birthday in Uberlandia at her sister's house. A few days after arriving at her sister's house in Minas Gerais, Heloisa secretly returned to Rio de Janeiro and started living in Morodo, Cantagalo, in the southern zone of Rio. Once again, as a homeless person, just like before, she was seen by many people, and one of these people even said that when talking to Eloisa, she mentioned that she was a very famous model, but that it wasn't worth it, and what she wanted for herself was to be free, living on the street and collecting her cans. Eloisa ended up being found and rescued by the team from the present Ipanema operation. She was disoriented and was taken to the Municipal Institute Felipe Pinel in Botafogo. Eloisa's family once again went to get her, and this time they took her back to the model's hometown. But what everyone wants to know, and you must be wondering, yes, how a promising career, such a life, perfect, can end this way. And it was at this moment that some explanations began to appear. The model's former agent in New York, the Rio native Paulo Fernando Santos, said that when Eloisa and Andre separated in 2016, she didn't want to leave the custody of the daughter with him, and that actually they entered into a legal battle in which Andre played dirty in court, using compromising photos of his ex and allegedly used the same images to tarnish her image also in the fashion world. Friends say that Andre turned out to be abusive and controlling. Without family support and afraid of losing her husband's support in her career, Heloisa endured, but the separation became inevitable. Of course, Andre denies all the accusations and says that actually it was Heloisa who abandoned their daughter and that he no longer recognizes her. The girl is now between 7 and 8 years old and lives under the care of a guardian, appointed by the British justice system. Heloisa does not have access to the child. Perhaps we will never know what led Heloisa to this breakdown because, as I already mentioned in the Miss Ukrainia video, the truth always has three sides: mine, yours, and what really happened. And in this case, we don't even have Heloisa's version. Maybe one day she will feel comfortable enough to tell what really happened. I just hope she is well and recovers as soon as possible. I mentioned the Miss Ukraine case to you, but I wanted to take this opportunity in this video to recommend another video to you that is also here on the channel, which is the case of Britney. She also had a breakdown and lives under an abusive conservatorship managed by her father for more than 13 years. There's a video on the channel. I will also leave it in the pinned comment, and you can go and take a look, better understand what happened, because those who see Britney don't imagine that she goes through all of this. We only know that she had that breakdown in 2007. Most people only know that, but don't imagine the what goes on behind all of that. Well, what I know, folks, is that this world of fashion and show business is crazy, and the people are really like slaves, so to speak. So now what I'm going to do is go to the comments to chat with you and find out what your opinion is about this case. Well, folks, that was today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, leave a like as it really helps me with the video's engagement. I'll stop here and see you in the next video.